to find a solution, a real one, I think we must first know what will not work, because otherwise we could spend a lot of time and energy running down dead ends, wasting valuable time when we could be doing something constructive, but doing instead something that just makes us feel good. And to cover this, I think an analogy would be the best way to examine these different options. Sometimes I think we can see things more clearly in analogies than in real life, because in real life we're involved. We're committed. I mean, we're in the picture. But in an analogy, well, that's something over there, and we can look at it more objectively. So let's create an analogy. Let's imagine that we're on a ship, a cruise ship. It's a wonderful ship. It's the USS Pleasure Craft. You can't imagine anything being better than that. I mean, the food is good, the music is good, the beverages are flowing up on the casino deck, the slot machines are loose, I mean, in the balmy air, and at night the stars are out, and there's romance in the air. I mean, it's just a wonderful trip, and it's great to be on board. Let's imagine that you and I are strolling on the upper deck one evening, and we go up there where the control room is, the wheel room, and we look in and we see a horrifying thing. We see a group of men. They're actually pirates. They're not dressed as pirates, but they don't have those hats on or sabers, but they're pirates. They break in, they grab the captain, and they shoot him and throw his body over the edge, and they put the other officers into chains behind their backs. They take their uniforms off, and the pirates put the uniforms on. And we see that. And we're horrified. And we hear what they say. They say, all right, we've now got control of the ship. Now the next move is we're going to turn this ship around, and we're taking it to a prison island, and we're going to download all of these capitalistic, affluent, sloppy, unworthy passengers and show them what life is really like. We're going to put them to work in a collectivist society where they have to earn their bread. And everything will be equal. We're going to a prison island, and we're just dumbfounded with this information. So, what do? We rush downstairs, and the first thing, we break into the lounge, and we say, hey, everybody, you know what we just saw up there? We saw some pirates, and they took the captain, and they shot him in the head, and they're going to take us to a prison island. And everybody's looking at us like we're nuts. What is he talking about? Captain shot, thrown over the prison island? Pirates? What? Come on, call a psychiatrist, somebody, please. Look, there's an officer. We just see him. We just saw him. He walked by. He's got his uniform on. The ship is still going. The band is still playing. Food is still good. Slot machines are still paying off. Everything is the same. Who wants to listen to us? Well, we just learned a big lesson there that nobody wants to believe us, even though it's true. And now the question I pose to you is, what are we going to do? We don't want to go to that prison island. And we know that's where it's headed. What are we going to do? Okay, that's the analogy. Not too far removed from reality, by the way. So let's take a look at the options. There are a lot of them, but I figured out that there were at least 7 good ones, or obvious ones anyway. Here's the first one. Very popular choice. Do nothing. Now, this is based on fear, of course. We're afraid of reprisals. We saw what they did to the captain and to those officers. These guys are rough. They're mean. A guy could get hurt. You know? You don't want to mess with those guys. They're tough. And so we sure hope somebody else will solve this problem, but not me. I'm staying out of this. I'm just going to watch and see what happens. So we do nothing. That's an option. Note, however, it doesn't solve the problem, does it? And we're looking for solutions. So let's skip to number 2. Well, let's join the pirates. I mean, these guys are in control, aren't they? They're not going to the prison island, or at least if they do, there'll be guards. I'd rather be a guard than be an inmate. So let's go to the pirates and say, you know, you guys are doing a good job. Do you need some help? Get a good job. with the forces that are taking us to slavery. Get employed. Become part of them. A lot of people take that option. But again, it's not a solution. It doesn't solve things for our kids and our grandkids and their kids. Not even for us, really, because most of us couldn't survive when we got to that prison island and we saw how really bad it was. We would object, and the first thing you know, we'd be on the other side of the barbed wire as well. Doesn't work. It's not a solution, though. So let's move to number 3. Now, here's a good one. Let's jump ship. Let's get off of this ship. This is a bad place to be. Let's get one of those life rafts and we'll go someplace where we don't have this problem. Well, to make our analogy complete, we must understand that all the other ships at sea and all the major ports have been taken over by this same group of pirates. Maybe different branches, but they're all basically the same, and there is no place to go except maybe some flea-bitten island somewhere where you couldn't survive very long. And even then, they probably eventually locate you. Doesn't solve the problem. So let's forget that. Number 4, let's hide. Let's drop out of the system. Maybe they won't find us if we take the number off of our stateroom. If we don't have a number, they'll never know we're on board the ship. Right? Oh, I know there's a big place down in the boiler room. They got these big tanks, and there's some spaces back there, and you can hide for a long time. They'd never even know you're there. Everybody else goes to the prison island, but we're safe because we're invisible. And it doesn't work, because even if you were invisible for a little while, eventually they'd find you behind that big boiler tank. And you'd wind up there also. I think of some of my friends that say, well, you know, I've got rid of my Social Security card because they'll never find me without a number. And I get this mental picture of the blue helmets showing up at 3 o'clock in the morning, banging down the door with the butts of their rifles and saying, you and your family into the truck. And they say, well, you can't do that to me. I don't have a Social Security card. I don't mean to be too hard on my friends that don't like Social Security. I don't either, but that's not the point. You can't hide. You can't hide on that ship. And you can't hide on our ship either. They know where you are, and it won't make any difference if you're in or out of the system. So let's go to number 5. Now here's a practical one. Let's write letters of protest and send petitions to the pirates asking them to be nice. Let's have a letter writing campaign. A big petition program. If we get enough signatures on pieces of paper, those pirates are going to shake in their boots. Well, they don't care. That's not going to do it at all. So if that's not going to work, how about number 6? Let's take them to court. Let's get a very good lawyer, which means an expensive lawyer, and we'll prove in court that they can't do that to us. It's against the Constitution, it's against the laws, and the courts will defend us. Surely they will. But we must recognize that on board this ship, the courts are controlled by the pirates. So that won't work. What does that leave, ladies and gentlemen? That's 6 out of the 7. Well, here's number 7. This is all that's left. If we want to solve this problem, this is what we must do. We must organize a counter coup and recapture the ship. Now, that's enough to scare you to death. As I said before, these guys are tough. They're not going to like it if they see that we're trying to do that. But ladies and gentlemen, if we are serious about this, it's not just some kind of an armchair activity. We must recapture control of this ship, or there is nothing that we're ever going to do that's going to solve the problem. We must recapture control of the ship just the way it was captured from control of those who were its rightful owners in the first place. Now, how do you do that? How do you recapture a ship that's in the hands of a bunch of pirates, some very bad people, and people with great power? They've got all the guns. They've got the police force. They've got the courts. How are you going to do that? Well, we're going to do it the same way they did it. First of all, we must understand that cooperation is necessary. We can't do it one at a time. They didn't do it alone, one person or two people. They got organized in the first place. They got groups together. And they discovered, or they knew, not that they discovered it, everyone knows this, that people working together in cooperation are far more effective than the same number of people working separately. There's a squaring effect that takes place. I've seen it so many times in organizational work. Two people working separately, side by side, can accomplish the effect of two people. But if they join forces and work in concert, they can accomplish the same effect as four people separately. In other words, 2 times 2. 3 people working together can accomplish the effect of 9 working separately. 4, the effect of 16, and so forth. Just imagine the power that is available to a group even of 100 people who are organized and willing to work together. Or a group of 4,000 people, as we now have in the United States, in the CFR, who literally control and run the entire ship. But only 4,000 of them. And probably fewer than that at the inner core. The circle within the circle is far smaller than 4,000 people. But they do work together, and we also must do that. Secondly, we need international unity. That doesn't mean we have to surrender our allegiance and our love of national country, our love of country. Not at all. I don't think we're not talking about internationalism in that sense, but we are talking about international cooperation. People in other countries have the same problem. Our enemies are organized across national boundaries. We must seek the cooperation and support of people in all countries in the world. Our vision must be international in scope, while at the same time defending national sovereignty. 3, we need people who are activists. Those who are willing to do more than just read about a problem or think about a problem or talk about a problem. People who are willing to devote a significant portion of their lives. Armchair patriots are useless in this struggle.